Welcome to The Jewish Lens, a podcast to discuss anything and everything from a Jewish perspective. Now, please help me welcome the man who controls the media, your host, Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen, and today I am thrilled to welcome the co-founder of the new company Chatterpod, which is dedicated to podcast production and everything that goes into it. She's also a voiceover artist, TV presenter, hosted her own radio show, was the marketing director for the luxury lingerie company, Rigby Peller, where she was also the personal lingerie fitter for Princess Di. And she's also someone who I knew but haven't spoken to directly for over 30 years. So I'm excited to chat with now. Please help me welcome Jill Kenton. Jill, thanks so much for joining me.
Oh my gosh, what an amazing introduction.
Yeah, I think I'm winded now from everything.
I know. I can't believe it's 30 years, Jonathan.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
What is it with us when we get older? Our lives just go so quick. When we were younger, a year felt like an eternity, and now we're already 55, and I met you at like 21.
The years are going by very fast now, too, and I don't like that either.
Slow it down.
Exactly. Each birthday, it's like, oh my God, what's the number now? So, but all right, let me start. So I have a lot to cover with you. Okay. So you have so many credits to your name, so I also a lot to catch up with, but I want to start by going back with you. So where did you grow up exactly? What was your family life like? And I know you said you're not very Jewish, but what was it like with regard to Judaism when you were younger?
Going to go back to when I was at home in South London. I grew up in South London with my two traditionally Jewish parents. They kept a kosher home, and I followed. I went to synagogue on Sundays. We observed, but we didn't, keep Shabbat, but we went to synagogue on a Friday night. I went to Heder classes on a Sunday when I was younger. And then I went to a Jewish boarding school at 13 years old called Carmel College.
I remember you mentioning that. Okay.
Yes, I went to a Jewish boarding school called Carmel College. It was the best years of my life. Best years.
Did you like being at boarding school? You like
I loved it.
Really?
I did. I really, really loved it. I went from 13, and I've actually just finished a podcast all about it called The Road. Yeah, it's called The Road from Carmel. And what we did was I put together people who went to the school through the decades and did a then. What was life like at school? And what was your first day like when you arrived at this boarding school age 9, 10, 13, whatever age it was, all the way through to what they do today? And some of the stories were so inspiring. And I've actually brought the alumni back together through these podcasts. And it was just I love podcasts. I think they're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So anyway, I started at 13 and I left at 18 and then went to drama school. So studies for me, the only O level I got was Jewish studies. That was it. I was very popular, and that was it. I didn't do well in school at all, but I made up for it later on in life.
So you like being away at school. You went to drama school too. Is that what you wanted to do at one point?
I wanted to be on the stage. So when I was younger, I had an amazing singing voice, and I don't have one now. But I really tried. And my dream was to be in Les Miserables. I wanted to be Eponine on the stage in Les Mis, and I studied musical theatre. And I auditioned, and I didn't get in. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to try one more time. And if I don't get in, I'm going to just go to work for my parents. And that's what I did. And then I moved to New York at 18.
Well, okay. I can't believe you moved to New York at that age, first of all.
Yeah, I was 18 when I moved to New York.
Wow. Okay. So we'll get to that. Okay. Because that's mind blowing to me. So you moved away from your parents at 18? I moved
away from my parents at 13. So right. I went to boarding school at 13, went to drama school when I really didn't quite fit in educationally. And then I decided I wanted to go to New York at 18. And I went there for 1 year. I said, I'd just go there for work experience in Henry Bendel on Fifth Avenue. And I just sort out their bra department for the family and just come home. But I never did.
That's incredible. So were you nervous, like just being there?
No, I was always ballsy. And I do think people that go to boarding school, I was on my own on the Jewish Y on 92nd Street.
Wow. Wow. Oh, that's incredible.
I was nervous. So I'm not going to lie. I was scared. My parents left me. I'll never forget that. Even at 55, I remember them leaving me in the foyer of the 92nd Street Y. And I was scared, but I knew I had to do it. I'm a ballsy girl, always have been and always will be. I take risks. And I said, I'm going to try this out. I had one friend that I knew, and we spent a lot of time together. And I ended up staying there, I think, nearly 10 years.
Wow. Oh, that's amazing. That's really amazing. So when I met you, that was during that time period.
Yeah, I was about, I think, 21 or 20.
Wow.
I
Wow.
reckon. Yeah, yeah.
So, okay. So you were just so you were still a kid when your parents bought Rigby and Peller, right? I mean, but for
Yes,
those who don't know,
I was 12.
you were 12.
I was 12 years old, and I didn't quite understand the magnitude of the company that they
Well,
bought
yeah,
because,
before we go into that, can you just
yeah.
explain people who don't know? Can you explain what Rigby and Peller is for
Well, there's a store in
Americans?
New York. I think there's a couple of stores in the US
Right.
called Rigby and Peller, and they specialize in bra fitting and the top ranges of underwear and apparel, intimate apparel. And they specialize in the fit and making it you feel $1 million. And there's a store just by Bloomingdale's, which was open, which was my dream when I was living in New York, when I was selling Rigby and Peller in the States. Always wanted to have a Rigby and Peller store, but that happened later after we sold. But we'll come back to that when I explain the
Right.
sale and the
So
transition.
you said you weren't aware of the magnitude of it as a kid.
No, no, because when she bought it, I was 12 years old. I'd just gone off to school. She bought a company from a lady called Mrs. Geeta. I can't remember her name, Mrs. Geeta. I was 12, and they opened the store in Knightsbridge, just alongside Harrods, and they just bought the royal warrant from Mrs. Geeta, who she had to meet the Queen to make sure that she could take over the royal warrant, because you can't just be handed a royal warrant, you have to be approved.
So that was your mom needed Queen approval?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. So back in 1982, she had to go and meet the Queen and go through all the process that she needed to go to Buckingham Palace, go through the ID checks, everything. And then she ended up being the Queen's fitter for over 40 years, being as the most personal royal warrant that you could ever get, basically, because it's seeing the Queen literally in her undies,
Right.
and helping her with her corsetry and her underwear.
I love knowing that someone said, "Oh, I have to go fit the Queen for lingerie."
Yeah.
I love hearing that. So, from what I was reading, your mom helped revolutionize the business. That's what I was reading.
Yes.
What did she do exactly?
So when we took it over, my mum took it over, my dad, in 1982, all it was a little workshop on a beautiful street in London, shopping street called South Molton Street. You've probably been there because it's quite a target for the Americans. They love to go to South Molton Street. It's quintessentially British in a busy London. And it was above a shop called Artie. I still remember the name. It was just little seamstresses working, making corsets and corsetry and bras for very, very wealthy duchess and people with titles in front of their names. It was not a general public store because it was a very royal place to go, and it was expensive. And my mum took it on and moved it from South Molton Street to Knightsbridge, where the store evolved. And we went from, while I was away in the States, she was a queen of PR, absolutely insanely good at PR and marketing. And she pushed it out there to become the one-stop shop to go for anything under your clothes. And of two royal warrants, the Queen Mother and the Queen. There was two.
Well, so beforehand, so everyone knew what Rigby and Peller was, but your mom is the one who got it out to become this big.
No one knew. No one knew back in 1982. It was a very quiet, small shop that was very discreetly placed on South Molton Street. People didn't know of Rigby and Peller at all. It was my mother that brought it to the forefront of everyone's mind to get the fitting right, to get the bra right, and just to feel really good about yourself, because it's all about feeling confident and getting the right bra. And she literally just changed the vision of wearing underwear to make it more, I mean, she's on the fashion staple of what made corsetry back in the 80s and 90s. We're doing the archives at the moment. I'm digitizing everything, and it's incredible. I mean, she worked with Galliano, she's worked with Madonna. You know, there's so many people, but she was in the right place at the right time. We didn't have Victoria's Secret in the UK at that time. She was the only one place to go to. So she accelerated her growth very quickly.
So you didn't want to do it. You said you wanted to do something else. So what made you decide then to go into it? Besides not doing the acting thing. So
yeah, I was at drama school, and I just said, you know what? I don't know if I want to be in the store, because I'm the daughter, and people, you know, I just felt a little bit like I wanted to have my own thing, because I've always been out there and I always like to do my own thing. So I said, look, could you send me to New York to work for Henry Bendel? They were looking for someone, and I wouldn't get paid. I think my mum at the time, the company paid me to be in Henry Bendel to revolutionize this little tiny lingerie department, put everything in drawers and train the girls how to fit. So I did know, I was working there. I knew how to fit bras, and I was born with a bra on my head. I mean, I knew exactly how to work in underwear. So I changed the department, and I made it into what it should be. And I remember the lady who was the buyer, called Nina. She was so in awe of what I did for the lingerie department. And then we took it into an office on Fifth Avenue, where we had our own distribution for the Rigby and Peller brand. And then we distributed it to Neiman Marcus, to Bloomingdale's, to not Macy's, but it was all independents. And I was traveling around. When I met you, I was still traveling around selling Rigby and Peller as a brand.
So that's when it really started exploding. It started
yes,
wow.
In the UK. In the UK, I think the Americans struggled with the concept. They couldn't get the price at all. It was expensive. It was about $66 back in 1990 for a bra.
Right.
They wanted Wacol that was cheap and cheerful, and Notori or whatever. There's some of the brands that were out there. They were really inexpensive. They couldn't get their head around the Queen's bras, that they were so expensive, and it would be for a special occasion. So sales were slow.
Mm-hmm. So you got into it. You become the personal fitter for Princess Di. So
when I came back, when I came back from the US, I moved back in, I was there from 1988 to 1998, 97. I moved back, and I managed the Knightsbridge store. And that's when the business was exploding. There were people queuing outside the shop. We had to give away butcher tickets for people waiting to get into the fitting room. It was bonkers, because while I was gone, my mother had spun this incredible PR story all about Rigby. So I'd come back to this crazy loon, and then Diana's coming in, and then we're dealing with Kylie Minogue and Madonna, and it was just amazing. And I sat on the sales of the management of the Knightsbridge store. Then it turned into marketing. So I took over a little bit of what my mother was doing.
So what's it like for you to say, I'm putting a bra on Princess Di? Oh, that looks fantastic on you.
All I can remember is looking at her and going, wow. Her body was insane. She had legs up to her eyebrows. She was lovely. I mean, she was beautiful. And we went, my mum and I remember the first year I moved back, Mum said, do you want to go for lunch with Princess Diana? And I went, just think about that question. Of course I want to go. Yeah. So she invited me and my mom for lunch at Kensington Palace. So me and Diana and my mom are sitting having, it wasn't chicken soup, it was probably salmon and some sort of concoction, and in her private rooms at Kensington Palace. That was unbelievable.
Was she as nice as she seemed?
Beautiful. I mean, really beautiful. And she was so jealous of me. She goes, you're married to an American man? I'm like, yeah, because I'd moved back from America. I'd married in New Jersey, and I brought him back with me. Sadly, that didn't work out. I got divorced in my 33rd year. But she was so in awe of non-English men.
Wow.
which, you know, you look at Dodie and you know, her journey, you know, there you go.
So, okay, I'm looking at some of the names here. So you dealt with, besides the royal family and other celebrities, so I was just looking at them. Nicole Kidman, Sherry Blair, the wife of the former, prime minister, and many others. Was there anyone that just left you awestruck, like starstruck, like, I can't believe that I'm talking?
So this is someone that got me awestruck. It was the experience more than the person. So I was personal fitter to Sherry Blair, and I had to go to number 10 Downing Street on a regular basis. So I remember my first visit, and back then, we're talking 1998, 1999, 2000, you could drive in and park right outside number 10. You can't do that now. I remember going through the security. They had the little, what do you call it, underneath the car to check, that there's no bombs and everything is there, checking under the car. And I parked outside number 10 Downing Street, and I walked over to the door. I didn't know what I was doing, and I started to knock on the door, but of course there's cameras everywhere, and the door just opens, and there's me trying to knock on the door, and I've walked into this TARDIS of a incredible building. It looks like it's this one singular little black door, but behind that door is masses of rooms and hallways and staircases, and then I went up to Cherie's bedroom, which is where Tony Blair and Cherie slept. And I fitted her in her bedroom a few times. Lovely lady. Fashion-wise, she needed assistance. She liked to have assistance with her wardrobe, not just underneath, but also exterior, on the outside.
Was he around at all, ever?
What's that?
Was he around, Tony Blair? Was he around?
No. But there was a couple of shirts laid out on the bed with the ties lined up. But no, he was not there.
So your family eventually sold the majority stake in the company. So, but yeah, even before then, you started venturing out, doing other things, including, voiceover, and hosted your own radio show. So how did you get into that to begin with? And, how did that all come about?
When I was doing the marketing at Rigby Peller, I did a lot of television work. So I was on a very famous show back here called Suzanne and Trini, What Not to Wear, Gok Wan, How to Look Good Naked. There was a lot of shows that I appeared in.
How did that happen? I mean, they just contacted you
because they contact you saying, could you be on it, talking about underwear and bras and changing people's lives? So we were at that time the place to go to for advice, and I could present, and that's what I did. I went into people's homes and looked at their underwear and sorted them out, or whatever I did. So I always had that amazing ability to, which I didn't know I had, talk to the camera and love the camera. And I enjoyed selling my story and my skill to people who are watching. And I think it's really important, because we would know by looking at someone. You won't understand this, Jonathan, but I can just look at a woman and know her size. Literally look at her.
That's incredible.
I mean, that's crazy, right? But that's what I was trained to do. I learned to be into boobs since I was born, like I said, with a bra on my head. So we sold in 2011, and I needed another string to my bow. So I thought, okay, I like television. I enjoy it. I love talking. So I auditioned for this radio show, and I had a radio show for 4 years. So that's where my love of audio came from. So I was an afternoon presenter on a show in London, and I broadcast to Buckinghamshire, Bedfordshire and London every afternoon, and I absolutely loved it. And then I went back into TV, did a bit of BBC work and all that sort of stuff.
Are there any nerves going in? Because you came from a totally unrelated field. You just were totally comfortable right from the beginning.
No, none. It just, you know what, in radio or even in podcasts, you either sink or swim. You've either got it or you haven't got it. And I'm a natural talker. There's a time in the States that I went to Seattle, and I think it was Neiman Marcus. And this is the one time in my life that changed my life to give me such skill in delivering public speaking, because some people can't do it.
Right.
They can't. And I was 21 years old. I was flown out to Seattle by Neiman Marcus. I think it was Neiman Marcus. I think so. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And I normally do a breakfast meeting with the store because we do trunk sales. You know what a trunk sale is. Do you know what a trunk sale? Well, we go and
out of the
set up like,
okay, yeah.
like a floating shop that would go between one Neiman Marcus to another Neiman Marcus, helping people, and they publicize it.
And someone will buy it, right? From what you're
So to just sell my services.
Right.
So I remember doing this trunk sale in Seattle, and they flew me in, and I was only 21. They all thought I was about 25, 26 years old because I was so mature. And I put that down to boarding school because I grew up very, very quickly. And they said to me, right, you're going to talk to the store. And normally it's 4 or 5 people in the lingerie department I'm doing a breakfast meeting with. It was the whole store. We're talking from the postage department all the way through to the suit department to the buying team. There were hundreds of people. And I remember coming around this corner and standing there and going, this is what drama school was for.
I can see that.
Imagine the front row naked and just be calm. And that's what I did. At 21 years old, I delivered a clear speech about what Rigby and Peller is all about, because it was about selling the brand within the store so that they could recommend it on different floors. So if someone's putting on a beautiful dress for a lady upstairs, for Sarah, and she's wearing a dress, okay, let's get you some nice underwear. There's the Queen's underwear downstairs. Let's go try it on. It's that. And that's what made me that actually. So you said, how did I find this inner confidence? And that was one of my times that I felt built me.
Well, okay. Now, you said you were on TV a lot, but then you got your own show, right? You also got your own show on TV?
No.
Okay.
I did a few little shows where I was involved in like BBC Breakfast, and I'd go on as a contributor. I was mainly radio, and that's where, and I loved it. But I just thought, I want more. And I was told while I was doing my radio show that you could earn more doing voiceovers, because radio shows are brilliant. I did BBC. I also worked for a station out in Marbella called Talk Radio Europe. So I did afternoons with them. So it was great. I loved it. But I felt like I wanted more. It wasn't enough for me. And that's when I went into voiceovers. Okay.
So I have to ask about the radio show too. But so what point did you start to think, you're doing all these other things, that because you came from doing Rigby and Peller. What point did you think that, hey, I've made it now. I'm successful in this field, that I don't have to worry about going back?
I never think that I'm successful enough. I'm always striving to be better, and I'm always going to the next thing. I have to say, I mean, look, I've gone from TV, radio, and let's start at the beginning. Being Peller, TV, radio, voiceovers, and now podcast and dog breeding. I'm always evolving, and I think it's good because it keeps things fresh.
I have to ask about the dog breeding too. But so what was the feeling like about when you start seeing yourself on TV regularly? I mean, what was that?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I loved teaching people how to get their clothing right, or what's underneath their clothing right, because I had a skill. I knew my stuff, and I could sell it where I would change people's lives. I don't think I could just stand there and do nothing. I had to be doing something to make things better.
And I was reading this, you did a lot of interviews yourself. So who's someone you interviewed?
Only on the radio. So it was more not on television. Nobody of, I mean, I had like Earth, Wind and Fire at one point, because actually he's an old friend of mine. But I think celebrity wise, if you're digging for that, it was more at Rigby and Peller that I could say that I met and dealt with more celebrities at Rigby than I did on radio.
Okay, I have to ask on the other side now too, because so we talked about some of the good people, and you don't have to mention names, but anyone that you have encountered through your years that say, wow, this person's a real jerk?
Kidman.
Really?
Joan Collins. Wow. Wow. I'm like, she was difficult, very, very harsh. Nicole walked in with her entourage, was just not very nice. Not very nice at all. Like, I'm trying to think who else. People in the UK as stars like Dawn French, which is probably
I
going
know
to
about
mean
French.
nothing to you, Dawn.
Yeah.
Beautiful. The English people, I believe, are a little bit more down to earth. I think La La Land, they
I can
can be
see
a
that.
bit, yeah.
It's funny because like I've told you that I do a podcast also where I interview celebrities, and I've had so many people on who've told me stories about celebrities that I loved growing up, and like, oh, really, that they're like this, and it's so disappointing, so deflating sometimes
I
hearing all.
think I think for me, I'll never forget Nicole Kidman. The way she treated the staff was just not. It wasn't nice.
Well, I want to. Okay, let's get to your, you know, podcast. Let's talk about your podcast too. So you're doing something now. You talked a little bit
New.
about
This
the.
is brand new. Just set it up 2 weeks ago, and honestly, it's amazing.
Oh,
It's called Chatterpod.
right. Let's hear about Chatterpod. But I want to ask you about your podcast itself. You're doing. You.
The Carmel podcast.
Right.
Yeah, let's go back to Carmel. So the road from Carmel we created because um, there is a fantastic community and it goes with Jewish people. When you go to school with a bunch of Jewish people, you tend to become like family and you never forget. And especially with boarding school. So I just thought, let's put a podcast together with a co alumni. We were in the same year called Dora, and we put this podcast together. And it was all about a then and a now. So it was about them at 13, walking into Carmel College. How did they feel? How was this experience for you? Do you remember your first day? And it takes them all the way through. If you want to watch it, it's on all listening devices called The Road from Carmel. Anyway, we started off the week of Hanukkah just to do it literally for a week as a gift to the community. And they loved it so much. We ended up doing it for a year with full sponsorship.
Oh, that's incredible. So. With
Yeah.
all the people loved being on. With
Yeah, they
that you
love
didn't
being
know?
on. Listen, anything about a true story and life, I think people just love to hear a story. And some of the stories were not great. Some people hated it, were bullied. Other people that started off came over from Egypt with nothing and became billionaires. So it's from nothing to everything. It's an interesting podcast.
Were there things that happened that during it, because you went to the school with them, were there things that came up that you said, oh, I really had no idea about that you just were surprised at?
No, because the people that talked within my generational, I knew everything about. But there were things that happened, that maybe 10 years prior that I was like, oh, wow, okay, didn't know. Yeah, there was some surprises along the way. But I just love interviewing people. I love radio, but you know what, to sit in a studio, I don't know if you've ever done a radio show, it's all the prep before the show, it's the running around in hula hoops trying to please everyone in the studio station and everything. It's just, I wanted my own thing, and I loved the podcast. It's just you can reinvent yourself.
No, well, I agree with you totally. I mean, I enjoy doing this just because, the same as you, I love hearing about people. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
I love talking to people, interviewing them, finding about different things and just finding out people. I think I've been doing this for several years now. There's only one person who came on, and I'll tell you off here, who was just rude during it, but everyone else was so nice. So I won't mention any names, but so before we get to Chatterpod, before we get there, I want to talk about something more serious there. I'd rather end on something good, but I want to talk about something more serious. Okay.
Yeah.
So several years ago, you underwent a really serious health issue to the point where you thought that was it. So can you talk a little bit about that? I watched the video and I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't even imagine. So I want to hear from, what happened.
It was during lockdown, and we'd moved out of London because I decided to move out of London for whatever reason, just wanted to be in the country. I've always dreamt of having a country house, and we definitely have that. We're on an acre of land, and we moved out here and everything was great. And all of a sudden I just saw on my head, my eyeball started to protrude, my left eye, and then my head was swollen on one side.
You visibly saw swelling. You saw
visibly, visibly. If you go onto Instagram, I set this up for other people that have gone through the same condition. It's called Jill and the Journey on Instagram. And it documents my whole, from beginning to end, what I went through. It was hell. So I'm seeing this growth on my skull. And I just thought, God, I'm going to be honest, Jonathan. I have Botox, I have filler. I thought, oh God, maybe something's gone a bit awry here. Right. And I didn't know what it was. So I waited till after lockdown and I just went to have it investigated. And after, I'm not going to run through the whole thing, but it did take quite a lot because people are just like, no, don't worry, it's nothing. And maybe it's your kidneys or it's your whatever. And then someone very cleverly picked up, it was called a left sphenoid wing meningioma. And now when I got diagnosed in 2022, I was like, how do you say that? I couldn't, and now I can say it brilliantly, but I didn't know what it was. And what it is it's a tumor that's growing behind the eye socket. So your skull, your brain and your skull, and there's a gap in the middle. It was growing between my skull and my brain. So in that little cavity there, and it's pushing down on my eye, pushing it out, and it's coming through my skull. And I want you to imagine it's the size of a tennis ball, 6 by 5 centimeters. Didn't even know it was there. It'd been growing there for about 15 years, no symptoms, none. So they said to me that I could either leave it there because it's benign, but we won't know until we get in there to operate, or leave it there and just see how you get on. And it's called watch and wait. And I just went, there's not a chance in hell I want that thing out. I named him Terry. I want Terry gone. Terry is gone. So I found 3 surgeons and I had to, this is over a process of a year. So I'm cutting it short. I chose this amazing woman at the Cleveland Clinic. And I'll tell you the reason why in a moment, that would basically take this tumor out, test it to make sure that it's benign, and change my life. So she had to remove my skull. So this is all titanium. She had to replace my eye socket and restructure this side of my face. And that was done last February 2023.
That's so
it was the most horrific thing. And Jonathan, I'm going to be totally honest with you. It will change my life forever. I will never be the same. So I have to pace myself. It's a brain injury.
So what ways? I mean, what they say that you have to be careful with doing certain things still?
No, I just know that things are slower. I don't know if it could be menopause as well, because I'm at that age. But I just know that I'm happy being out here with not too much pressure. I do the work that listen, I work all day long, but I sit down in between. I just get very tired. Whenever there's anything that relates to the brain and anything, it's a brain injury, so it does slow you down. But I'm lucky to be alive and I'm happy to be here, and it's been life-changing.
You were terrified at the time. I mean, at the time, you, like I said, you were writing out your will and everything.
Yeah, I didn't. When I got diagnosed with this, and they showed me an unbelievable 3D of my head, and they showed this mass in my head. I did not, and as we talked about during this podcast, I'm a really confident person. I couldn't leave the house for about 2 months. I was so scared to step out that door that I was going to have an epileptic fit, die. I just wanted to stay in my safety zone until that thing was taken out. So I did lose the plot for a good 2 to 6 months. Easy. Yeah. And but I'm back on top now. I'm fine now.
Is there anything that people can do to think about this, if they might have this, or what kind of things do you look for?
The thing with these sort of tumors they're very rare, what I had. I think the only thing I can say is we could all panic. And actually, there's probably people walking around there with a brain tumor that don't know until they have a car accident and it's picked up. Brain tumors are silent. You don't always know. But then there are brain tumors that are on the stem of the brain and you get terrible headaches. Some tumors are silent, but just listen to your body. When I saw this lump, I was like, my eyeball protruding by 6 millimeters or something ridiculous. If you look at Jill and the Journey on Instagram, you will see my eyeball sticking. It's horrendous. You just listen to your body. If you're not sure about anything, don't panic. Just get it checked out. I did not know this was coming. This was a bolt out of the blue.
I am so sorry you went through that, but thank God you're okay. But just
no, I'm fine now. I tell you what, there's one thing in life that when things happen and they go wrong, and they do go wrong, it makes you evaluate your life and go, okay, this is what I want for my life. I've got married last year again. I sadly got divorced at 33. I've met my soulmate, and I just think life's too short. Enjoy every day.
Agreed. No, good advice. Okay, let's move to better things, like happier things.
Okay.
Now let's talk about Chatterpod. Okay, so you just started this recently. So tell me about the company. Tell me about what they do.
So when I did the podcast for The Road from Karma, which I really enjoyed, like you, we love to meet people. We love hearing people's stories, good, bad, whatever it is, indifferent. And I thought, you know what? I just love podcasts. So I looked out there to try and find an agency that would take me on as a voice to interview people. Mm-hmm. I love learning about people. I'm very good at interviewing. So I couldn't find anything. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to set up something. So what I've done with Chatterpod is a full service production company that basically helps you from start to finish. You know about this probably as much as I do, where you are thinking about doing a podcast, but you have no idea just where people start. Where do I start? What do I do? We do everything from setup. We do a discovery call so we can understand what you want, through to recording remotely. We can do it in a studio or remotely like you are doing here. Then we have editors that work for us. Then let's just say you don't want to host it like you're hosting with me. Right. Let's just say you want to talk about your brand. You've got a brand of, you want to talk about, I'm going to give an example, flowers. And you want to do a floristry podcast, but you don't know where to start, but you don't want to do it. We've got presenters that I've hired in that will host for you. Because let's think, what is a podcast? It's all about marketing. And then hopefully bolting on sponsorship. It's about bringing your brand to the forefront.
And this could be for anywhere. This does not have to just be for the UK.
Oh my gosh, I'd love to do it in the US. We would love to produce. So if you've got a business that you feel that you just don't know where to start, we would do the whole thing, even paid social media. We do everything. And actually, when you look at our website, chatterpod.co.uk, we're not that expensive. It's actually, people think, oh my God, that's going to cost thousands. I want to do a podcast, but I don't have that budget. We are a pick and mix. You can pick exactly what you want to do. So if you want to just do the recording, fine. If you want to do the recording and editing, fine. Whatever you want to do.
So if someone just has like an idea just for a basic concept, they can contact you and then you could walk them through the structure, how to go about doing the best way. Easy
peasy. And you can do as little as 1 episode, 2 episodes, or 6 series, whatever you want to do. And it's affordable. And the good thing about for us, is we're transparent. So all the prices are on our website, really affordable. The only thing that's not transparent is the prices of the hosts, because each host comes with different levels of expertise. Right. So you could have someone who is an amazing interviewer, but he's not been working for, I don't know if you've heard of LBC or BBC London. These are talk radio. There's some amazing, I've got them on my books as well. So you could have the creme de la creme, but you're going to pay per hour for that creme de la creme. Or you get a normal podcaster that knows how to host.
Well, no, that sounds fantastic. I looked at the site. There's a lot of great services there. One more time, the site name. So
www.chatterpod.co.uk.
Got it. Okay.
That's said with a real voiceover name.
Well, okay. I did not know about the dog breeding, so I do want to hear about that before.
Oh, my dog breeding. Yes. So my husband and I love dogs. So we love Australian Labradoodles. And I know you have them over in the States. It's quite a rare breed. It was raised in It was started in 1980 over in Australia. They're therapy dogs, they're teddy bears. That's what they were raised for. And we now have 5 dogs at home, a breeding business called DidgeriDoodles.
Oh my.
Yeah, I know, DidgeriDoodles.com. And we basically breed Australian Labradoodles twice a year. And I love it. I film the whole lot on Instagram. The whole lot.
This is all done from your house?
All done from my house.
Oh,
I'm a busy girl.
Yes, you are. Absolutely.
After a brain tumor, I'm a busy girl. So if you look at DidgeriDoodles, so it's spelled DIDGERI doodles.com, you will see everything on Instagram as well. They are super cute. Super cute.
I'll put down all when we release this, I'll put down all the info as well.
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay, so you're so busy all the time. You have tons and tons of credits under your name.
Yeah.
So what are you up to next? Besides Chatterpod?
No, that's it.
That's it.
Well, actually, we're building my life is crazy. We're building an annex on the side of the house for Paul's mother.
Right.
So that's next. She's moving in. And that is it. I'm going to do DidgeriDoodles for the next 5 years. We're going to do the Chatterpod for however long. And that will keep me busy, hopefully past my 60s. So for me, I don't think I'll ever retire. Like you probably want to keep going. I don't want to sit back and just play golf or.
It's important.
I'm happy to work. I love her. I love her.
And how can people? You gave the site name for Chatterpod. How can people follow you on social media?
My own personal, which I'm a bit bonkers. So if you like watching Instagram and seeing stupid posts, it's jillkenton.co.uk. Sorry, at Jill Kenton on Instagram. Or you can look at my website and see some of the work if you're looking for a voiceover. That's what I have, a professional studio at home where I do professional voiceovers, jillkenton.co.uk. Or like you said, you're going to list DidgeriDoodles and Chatterpod on the show notes.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Jill, I want to thank you. It's been so much fun getting to catch up with you and see you again after all this time.
In my bonkers world, bonkers world.
No, but thank you. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're incredibly, incredibly busy, but thank you for taking the time again.
No, absolutely. I loved it. Loved it.
Anytime you want to come back, would love to have you.
Absolutely. Anytime. I love to chat.
Me too. So again, this has been The Jewish Lens. I'm Jonathan Rosen. Again, a very special thanks to Jill Kenton, and please like, comment, and subscribe.
Thanks for tuning in to The Jewish Lens, where all items used was strictly kosher.